Hi, everyone. My name is Austin Nauert. I'm the Senior Film Programming Conference Manager here at South by Southwest. Hope everyone's enjoying. I think it's day 4 of South by. They're all starting to run together now, but I hope everyone's having a good time. Hope everyone's glad to be back in Austin. It's great to see everyone. So real quick, there's this thing called daylight savings, and it doesn't happen in the UK, or it hasn't happened yet in the UK. So we were hoping to have some of the cast join from set. We know we're gonna have at least one cast member. We're hoping to get the rest on the phone. We were hoping to have this from the Ted Lasso set, which was gonna be amazing, but we're working to get the rest on. But we are gonna hopefully have at least 3 of the cast members join virtually with us here today. But before that happens, I do want to just say, Ted Lasso is just such an amazing show. I know in the pandemic, it's just been like a balm almost to watch. I know especially in 2020 when the first season launched, and then the second season this year has just been incredible. So we're so excited to have some of the people behind the show here to talk about it with us here today. I'm gonna bring out our moderator, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Digital Film Tree, and just one of my favorite people to work with here. So please welcome to the stage, Nancy Jundee.
You'd be surprised how little I had to pay him to say those things. So do me a favor here, folks. Today, we're gonna do things the Ted Lasso way, and we're gonna be a bit flexible, eh? So the plan was, and I'm gonna give you a little treat, it's already up on the website, but Ted Lasso himself, Jason Sudeikis, is hopefully gonna join us live from a location set. And then we got Brendan Hunting, who is in the car, and we're gonna meet him too. And hopefully, Roy Kent, he will be joining in transpo. You might actually get to see them in the locker room. They are on their way from a location, and then we'll be hopefully sitting in that locker room. But how many of you guys saw Emotion in the Edit last year? Hands up. South by Southwest panel? No? Okay, we got a couple. So that went over like gangbusters, because until that point, I think a lot of people did not know that there were VFX in the show and how meticulously detail-oriented the edit is. So first and foremost, I'm gonna bring out American Cinema editor, Eddie Award-winning editor, Melissa McCoy, ACE. Come on out, lady. You know her work on the pilot. The past 2 seasons, she has been doing like episode 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. She's gonna do the finale this season. She's on the even numbers. And now, Emmy Award-winning supervising producer who, let's do a drinking game, okay? Kip Kroger likes to start sentences with the word, look. So if any of you brought your morning drinky poo or whatnot, just catch him and give a little giggle every time you hear that one. Ladies and gentlemen, Emmy Award-winning supervising producer, Kip Kroger. All right. We're gonna get settled. We're gonna be a little bit cozy here. And then guess who we're gonna have? Coach Beard, can you hear us? Brendan Hunting?
Yes.
Brendan Hunt,
Hello.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Look, it's London. That's not a truck, it's a lorry.
Mario London, thank you, Brendan Hunt, Coach Beard. I don't know how often I'm gonna slip in and out of that. I don't know how to say Ted Lasso without saying it Ted Lasso. So, all right, this is a little bit of a repeat here. So there's historic archival stuff that you can go back and watch with Kip and Melissa. So today we're gonna do a little bit of focus here on Brendan. So one of my favorite things here, sorry buddy, I know, that was a face. One of my favorite things here is that you, Jason, and Joe Kelly, EPs, writers, stars except for Joe, you spent quite a bit of time in Amsterdam coming up with so many different characters, working on your craft, gelling the way that you have. Can you even, at this point, how do you look back on that and juxtapose it with today, what you guys are doing? You know, that was quite a time in your lives that is now playing out on, Brendan, I wish I could show you this room. Wish I could show you. Packed it out here, dude. Good job.
I only half packed it. But a lot of people in the room disappointed they're not going to see Brett, which is how I react any day I don't see Brett. So that's fine. So for those who don't know, we worked in Amsterdam for different periods of time for a sketch and improv theater called Boom Chicago. It's in Amsterdam, but we do the shows in English because Dutch people speak better English than we do, which is irritating. And that's where we not only became like professional actors for the first time, performing almost every night, but we also got into football, soccer, if you will. So I don't know. I mean, one of the things I look back at is like there were a lot of times I was getting into soccer where I would spend the whole of a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon at the Irish bar next to our theater, just watching this new wonderful thing called soccer. A few years ago, you might have looked back at that and called it wasted time. But now, I know. It was research.
There we go.
Yes.
Now we got it. There we go. Straight
And the punchline
face.
still landed.
Yeah.
Such as it is. Boy, as fun as this already is, when we add the regular Zoom tech problems to this, it's really going to be juicy. Let's manage those expectations, everybody. This is going to be fun.
We always like to keep it interesting, though, Brendan.
I mean, honestly, again.
We'll fix
All right.
it. We'll fix it.
Well, let's see how this bad boy stabilizes. In the meantime, I actually want to build a little bit of bridge here with what you just set up. You are the bona fide soccer nut on the team. Like you, to be fair, I actually don't even know that you know that I'm on the other side of the previs. So it's you and we're getting the notes from Pedro that then go through you when we're doing the animations. And so when we get notes from you and then it goes on to editorial, it goes over to Kip. And for those who didn't see the panel last year, it's something called pre-visualization. And so we get a script and we get some notes and something called Steelomatics where we actually hear from Brendan. This is what's interesting to me. Even in the football sequences, each of those shots matter to build the story, to build drama, to build comedy, to build whatever's going on in each of these characters. And so I kind of want to tag team with Mel and Brendan here about how you guys work with that, because I'll get notes back from editorial. I think we really need this shot, but it's still what you're scripting out, Brendan. Tell me about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, getting the football done is a real, takes a village moment. And oh my God, I see Brett Goldstein. Do you guys see Brett Goldstein?
Gotta put him up on the.
All right, Brett's gonna need some time to find
Brett?
the exact right angle. I don't have that degree of self-interest. No, that's horrible, Brett. You're sideways. What are you doing? Brett, I'm in the middle of answering a question.
What on earth is happening? Sorry. Go. Do this.
Boy.
This is.
The football takes a village, and our post people are great, and Pedro's great, and we're at the point now where, we used to write really meticulous football, but now we can be a little more vague about it, because then Pedro and company just kind of know what they're doing now, and they just get a ton of stuff, and then Mel and AJ take it from there. But it is fantastic, it's pretty great watching it all come together because it's so bare bones at the beginning. And of course, Kip and the rest of the post people, y'all, filling in like the stadium and the scoreboard and the graphics and all of it. It's ridiculous what we're doing for this thing.
Well,
and we lost Brett. Good. That was really good. Oh, he's back.
Hey!
Mel, will you fill it in there for me? Like, what happens when you're starting to cut these scenes together? I mean, there's a big difference between the script all the way through till final. It changes. Huge shout out to Bill Lawrence for joining us last year and kind of giving us a look into the edit room and how the post-production is an extension of the writer's room. What happens when you start getting all of this in? What these guys are doing here today. Well, I can't talk about season 3, but
I don't know anything.
I don't know anything. We don't know anything, folks. But tell me, how do you start piecing that together? Because I know you start with the script, but then we get all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a process. It's in editorial where the final write of the script. You have the script, you have what you shoot, and then you have what you get at the end. But yeah, with the previs, with the Steelomatics, a lot of stuff's intercut. There's all these wonderful characters that we have to tell all these different stories. So a lot of times we'll get the football at a different time. So then we have to try to visualize, okay, this story, and then this goes into this, and how are we going to connect it all? And so having those previs or Steelmatics is really great to kind of get the rhythm. And then we start getting the football in, and then that's really exciting because you can really form the story that way. And then it goes on, and we build out the whole stadium, and because we just put the sound in, it's like you put in the huge crowd, and I have to sit there and think like, this shot's gonna be awesome once we get the crowd in. So I have to sit there and visualize that. We'll put temp sound in just to hear the crowd, so you kind of get the idea, because these guys do an amazing job of acting like there's a lot of people in the crowd. Well, they're really good actors. I don't know if anybody knows that. They're like the best actors.
They have a pile of awards, even last night, adding to the trophy case. Congrats, Mr. Goldstein, on your Critics' Choice Award. Bravo.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm still trying to play catch up on what the fuck is going on right now.
Hey, Brett, how happy are you, though, that you don't have to actually play the football on screen now?
Pretty happy.
I did just rewatch, was it Lavender? Or no, Rainbow, where poor Brett has to run again. When Dailies came in, and I was like, why is he running in 900 different shots on this one? Brett, can you tell me, like, I combed through a couple of the episodes that you've written. How involved do you then get in editorial, in building a lot of the going from script all the way through into how it's tweaked in the edit? Do you just keep yourself on screen as much as possible, or how does that work?
I keep them on screen for as long as
Mel
possible.
does. We know Mel.
Yeah.
God bless you, Mel. God bless you. How much am I involved from script to the end? Is that your question?
Yes.
As much as I'm allowed to be. I'm sort of there as much as I'm there as much as needed. How about that?
So
is that an answer? I'm there. I'm there from the beginning when we're planning the episodes, and then when we get down to the edit thing, I'll watch rough cuts and stuff, and may make a suggestion here and there. But these guys know what they're doing.
Well, hold on. Brett's underselling here, because I think Brett and Brendan and Jason and Joe make up this brain trust that likes to bring it home with us when it gets into Mel and AJ's hands. So it's a fun process. Like, I get to watch you guys kind of send us a script at the beginning, and then all of a sudden at the end, it's the same thoughts, and you guys sort of just driving it home and needling like right into exactly where it's going to land. It's fun. I'm not gonna let you totally undersell, Brett.
Well,
okay, I appreciate you, Kim. Remember, I'm English, and I can't, sell myself. So this is why I need you there.
That's what I'm here for. It's all good.
look at Chip supervising that production. Well, and I think while we're waiting to get Brendan back here, part of the bridge that I wanted to build with that, because again, Jason, Joe, and Brendan had all actually spent a lot of time together in Amsterdam. There's this brotherhood there. Brett, you kind of came into this, you came into the Doozer world. There's a lot of mentorship that goes on, a lot of camaraderie. And you guys are writing a show kind of taking apart these archetypes of masculinity. Some of them toxic, some of them encouraging, some of them overly positive. And we don't, I don't know that there's even photos of the writer's room, but I mean, half of it happened in a pandemic. So I'm looking at this writer's room, combing over your guys' scripts, the tweaks that you had to make for Nate's trajectory, the tweaks that you had to make for Roy Kent's trajectory. And you've given so many interviews about how you knew this character. When you first read the first scripts, you knew this character. How responsible do you feel for these journeys? How are you looking at them? That's kind of why I was asking about the edit, like taking it from what's in your head when you're writing it through.
Look, I feel really. Do you know what? It is difficult, isn't it? Because I don't like to say anything. Yes.
Yes.
Kip, don't let him get away with it.
I care about it very much. I care about all the characters. Genuinely feel look, sometimes me and Jason talk about it like it's obsession. Like I'm obsessed with this world, with the characters. I'm thinking about it nearly all the time, to the detriment of all other aspects of my life. And you get so immersed in the world of it and in ideas for how, and it's easy, the more we've done, I've said this, but like doing season 2 was arguably, like, I don't know if it was easier, but it was more exciting because you knew the actors now and you knew these characters so well that it was exciting to write for them because you kind of got a sense of how they would play it. And like, I think the stuff with Nate was really exciting because we know what a fucking good actor he is, and there was
Give it a suck.
that you could take him to do that. Getting to the edit, something to do with the size of a performance. In take 1, they did it bigger. In take 2, they did it smaller, and that so the story makes more sense. Stuff like that. That's where the suggestions of the brain trust come in, I guess. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Kip, let me ask you that because...
Well, no, because you guys modulate this stuff. Like, that's what's so neat, I think, is by you guys, by you and Brendan and Jason, and Joe, because he's embedded with you guys all through production, you start with the script where you kind of, you lay the blueprint, but then you're all there on set together modulating the performances. You guys all kind of seem to work to find, is it bigger, smaller, and which is the right flavor to carry the weight of the story through. And then you have the choices in the edit, so.
It's all it's all Jason calls it dials. It's always, we can dial it up, we can dial it down. And sometimes if something doesn't quite feel right, it may just be adjusting the dials. And, but it's usually, it's all there. And look, all of it goes through. In the end, it's like Jason it all gets filtered through the fine paint of Jason, right?
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings up a really good point. I think we've talked about this before, the wiki that lives in Jason's head. And I feel like all of you maybe have different portions of that wiki. Like he'll share just a little bit as much as he needs to know for the scene. There was a really good example where Hannah Waddingham and the gentleman who plays Rupert, I'm so sorry, Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans, I know, it's like a big deal. But Jason had shared kind of a background that happens in that moment when Rupert comes in and says that he and Bex are having a baby and why this is such a tough conversation. We never see it on screen, but it's in Jason's head. And he can share that to bring out those emotions that then translate to us on screen. Brett, how often does he do that to you on set versus in the writer's room? Or do you have the whole wiki at this point?
How often does he tell me like I'm about to get turn?
Kind of like the backstory. How often does he drop little nuggets on you right before camera rolls? I think we got him
in case anybody's wondering, Brett's going through a tunnel right now.
Yeah. Glad I got that one in there. Well, Kip, do you actually get the wiki nuggets?
Well, no. One of the things that's interesting about Jason is that a lot of the nuggets and a lot of the wiki don't necessarily make it to screen. Brendan's back!
He just came out of the tunnel. There you go.
Yeah, right?
Brendan, just to catch you up, we're talking about the wiki in Jason's head, and I threw it to Kip over here because I'm wondering if he actually gets any of the wiki nuggets.
I mean, Brendan, I think you're about as wikified as anybody at this point. But I was just saying that I think a lot of the stuff with Jason that's interesting is when we'll be sitting in the cutting room and going through the show, he'll start sharing deep backstory that's informed, the context of scenes or the perspective of the characters and stuff like that. And it doesn't necessarily ever make it onto screen, but it informs so much of what's going on. And I guess the question that we're interested in from you is how much of that do you go into it knowing? How much of it do you guys come up with really on set while you're going through it? Or where does it all land for you guys?
I think it largely comes from the writer's room. Jason generally has a starting point that he kind of thinks for each of these characters, and then we all sort of chime in, and it, you know, it changes or does not change based on those conversations. But it's definitely starts in the writer's room. But like, yeah, stuff that we, you know, came up with sort of off the cuff, you know, writing season 1 in 2018 is stuff that is still, yeah, as you say, it's not in the show, but it is affecting why certain characters are making the choices that they are making. I will say we just shot something yesterday that is that tells you a bit, not yesterday, but Friday, that tells you a bit of Rebecca's origins with Rupert in a way that we have talked about, yeah, again, for, you know, almost 4 years now, and have been writing from that, but y'all didn't know. And
Tag in, Brett.
But now here it comes to,
But now you will.
you know, at least answer that question. And I suspect we might see more of people's origin stories this year. I don't know.
That's cool. By the way, just for context for everybody here at South by, these guys started production last week. They're in their second week of shooting, and that's why we're so lucky to get them in transit.
I'm in a park. Signal's not great, guys. Signal's not great.
So Brendan's at a park. Brett's in the car. These guys are literally shuttling between sets right now.
It's a fucking disaster.
You got a F-bomb treat there. The Roy Kent special.
The Roy Kent special.
Brendan, let me, while I have you, can we dive into episode 209, Beard After Hours? Yes.
Yes, please.
All right. So I know this was such a love letter, meticulously crafted. I have the high luxury and privilege of getting to know Mel and having forced you to do so many interviews, thank God. But just to hear her and Francesca talk about this and the absolute details that went into this, but I know that it started with you guys, Brett, Jason, Brendan, all of you guys in the writer's room. And I'm not asking you to explain the keys. I'm not asking you to explain the moon. I'm not asking you to explain the seamstress. I'm not going to ask any of that. I just want to know why that episode mattered so much to you guys, to isolate him in such a way. There are a lot of layers that I think people get to Warshack on their own about what that means. There's Jason Sudeikis.
I got starstruck.
Jumped right in time to talk about beer.
Hey.
So, but let's talk.
Uh-oh.
We got him.
Oh, wow, we
him.
got all three of us?
Not here yet. Everybody's
Hold on.
waiting. That's why there's not a plot.
There it is.
The audience does
South
not
by.
know. There
Ted
we go.
Lasso. Woo.
Hey, Jason.
How's this going?
It's going great. It's going really great.
Smooth as silk, man.
No complaints.
Perfect.
Don't you fret, Boba
what-
Fett. We're getting through this.
Yeah. What are you guys talking about?
I mean, you guys could tell us how your day is going. No, all right. So episode 209, Beard After Dark. That's where you're coming into, Jason. And we've already talked quite a bit about how you, Joe, Brendan did a lot of time in Amsterdam, gelling that brotherhood. Brett coming into all of that with the Doozer world. Congrats to you as well on last night's Critics' Choice.
Thank you.
Huge for the ensemble, huge for you guys as individuals. But we're diving right into Beard 209. I want to know, like I said, I'm not going to ask the particulars. I think it's a Warshack for everyone to kind of dive into those layers. But why was it so important to you guys to isolate Beard? To have that moment where we could kind of break down the strong, silent, wise guy, wise as in like, anyway, you know where I'm going with this. Tell me where that came from, out of the writer's room all the way through to the passion project, the art piece that I know Mel and Frankie treated this as. Get me there.
Gosh, I mean, when season 2, when the show took off, then Apple asked us to do 2 extra episodes. We had already broken all 10 episodes for the second season. Like, we knew what the stories were. And so then it was a matter of being like, okay, well, maybe we'll do 2 episodes if we can think of 2 ideas. And then, so everybody pitched, all the writers pitched maybe 1, 2, 3 ideas. And I know I personally just always wanted to do a Coach Beard kind of after hours kind of thing, like where we were with him. And I think part of that truly just comes from knowing Brendan really well and being a fan of his even before I was friends with him. And I hope to stop being friends with him and just be a fan again sometime soon. But that's really up to him at this point. But, and it was really just a way, how do we exploit all of the fun, neat, silly, crazy, weird talents that Brendan Hunt as a human man artist has? And then we just kind of started from there, and rooted in the character and try to find the overlap. Does that sound about right, Brett? I don't think Brendan has any answer there.
I think it's a love letter to Brendan. There's a lot of, you're right, there are so many things that I would never want to say about signs and meaning in it, and the keys and the lighting and the moon and what all these things mean. And we could analyze all these things, but then we could also say, we just wanted to make a show that had an excuse for Brendan to do Hulu because he's fucking brilliant at it. There's that. We always knew it was going to end we knew where the end was. I mean, I think you sort of don't want to spoil it because I love reading all the ways that people had interpreted that episode. It's really special, and the more we say on it, the less people start crossing out their essays like, oh, I guess that wasn't true then. You go, no, can be.
I think it's also an excuse to get Brendan in those star pants. That was really a big part of it.
Yeah. Every single bit of it. Yeah.
I will say that.
I know. Go ahead. No.
Oh, I was just going to say that's the episode that people reach out to me about, and if they're reaching out to the editor, you know that it's making it somewhere. But I had somebody write me an email that was like, I have a friend of a friend, and I got your email, and I hope you don't mind, but I just watched Beard After Hours, and give it all the awards. I was like, thank you. That they took the time to reach out about that episode. And then I went and spoke to a class of students at Columbia College, and first question out, you cut Beard After Hours, right? Did you watch a lot of Scorsese movies while you were cutting that? And I was like, yes, I did. I pulled a Thelma, and I was
going to say Thelma Schoonmaker with the TCM in the background.
Yeah.
Well, for all of you guys, when you are looking at fact of the matter is, this is a show that, better or worse, is breaking down. It's always for the better. You are taking a look at actual real relationships. What happens behind any of these dynamics, whether they're power dynamics, romantic dynamics, any of these things. All of us have gone through an experience like with Nate, where you've poured into somebody, you've encouraged them, you want to see the best come out of them, and unfortunately, it does not turn the way that you had maybe hoped. You still believe in redemption, but at the end of the day, you're still going to feel that pain. So for you guys, even going through something like Beard, sitting there in the church, not knowing, what was downstairs, and the dynamic between him and Jane, there are so many small details that you're throwing into the script. Jason, we had just finished talking about the wiki that's in your head. All of these little details that go into these. I'm trying to piece together how we get from the wonderful women in your writer's room as well. Phoebe Walsh, Leanne Bowen, Ashley Nicole Black, the list goes on and on. And you see it in the moments between Roy and Keeley, even when I just need to be left alone. All of those little moments come out. Is it happening in the writer's room? How much of it happens on set? Where are these little details? How are you getting them in there? Is it the larger writer's room? Tell me.
There's definitely a lot of people in the writer's room telling Brett to leave them alone. Right when you know.
Yeah. It's just
That's going to look really bad.
writing down dialogue. Yeah, that's gonna. Yeah, exactly. I think it's come from all the above. I think it happens on set. It happens in the hours before we shoot. It happens maybe the night before. It happens weeks before. Some things may occur, be written in notebooks that have been around for a couple years. But I think oh no, did I lose it? Oh, but I think they occur every which way. We'd have to get down to specific moments to speak specifically.
Well, to be fair, I got to interview you a couple years ago for Aces magazine, and you shared that everything that this show was and ever would be was in that pilot. That's a few years ago. Do you still feel that way? Because honest to goodness, I think that pilot's going to be deconstructed in classrooms for years to come.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely think it's there. No, I haven't watched it. We watched it at the beginning of this season's writing session. We watched through all 22 episodes. This idea that sort of shopping from the back of your closet, where like you forgot about a shirt or a T-shirt, a concert T-shirt, and you're digging through your stuff, and maybe you're doing like a Marie Kondo situation, and then you were like, oh gosh, here's where that shirt is, and instead of trying to find it on eBay for $200, you're like, oh, I've owned it this entire time. It was right there. So looking back at the pilot, that was the last time I watched, was probably in September. And I still feel that way, 100%. Yeah. I don't think that's going to change, unfortunately, because that thing is locked. It is picture locked. Am I correct, Mel? Right?
Pretty sure we finished that one.
Yeah. Okay.
We have the extended cut we could put out, though.
That is. We do have
Mel,
an extended cut.
promises.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a little bit longer. But yeah, I think all the ideas from all those little details come from a bunch of different places, as well as from actors, both in character or even out of playing themselves, versions of themselves, or being themselves and just overhearing or talking with them and being like, oh, let's do that. Like learning that Jeremy Swift could play the stand-up bass, with that. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, then we know that when he quits, he's going to go home and grow a goatee and be playing the stand-up bass when when Rebecca comes to apologize to him in 109, I believe. But yeah.
Well, I think even hometown hero Brene Brown permeates that writer's room, and you guys have, I think, at this point, all done her podcast. And Brett, I think you've gotten her to do your podcast at this point, right?
Correct.
So the vulnerability, the transparency, the accountability that happens in this show, how deep does that go in the writer's room? How much do you guys talk about specifics? And what's kind of the comfort level then on set? Like Mel, you even have talked about the kind of takes that you get after dailies and how to comb through them. One day, even though it was funny, like Jason, when he was led Tassar, the fact that he lost his voice going that hard. So for a comedy about football, quote unquote, how do you guys prep for some of these bigger scenes?
I'll say in the writer's room, we kind of always had a very, it's always, sorry to use a corny term, I guess, a little bit, but it's always been kind of a safe space, Like we get to what these characters are going through by talking about what we're going through in the room. And every trauma is in the notes. They're meticulously held. We're going to put those in the Smithsonian. But that's something, not to blow Jason's horn too much here, but that's a leading by example thing. I mean, ever since season 1 in the room, when we didn't know what this was going to be yet, and we barely knew each other, just being very, very open about stuff we've been through in our lives. And I do think that had a fundamental role in making us kind of able to bring that stuff into the show.
Do we feel like we're
I think the more you talk about stuff and you share stuff like that,
Oh, good. It's not my fuck up anymore. Good. I'm off the hook. Did I do some?
Now we got you. I think we got you back now, Jason.
Oh, okay. What did I just say?
We
don't know.
We lost you
Yeah, I
right
don't
at the
know either.
beginning after Brendan said it's a leadership by example. That's kind of the tone that you set in the room.
You were talking about how sharing things is sort of the drive.
Yeah. Well, the more you sort of speak towards stuff that's going on, then you realize, how many of us all go through similar experiences, and you feel less alone, which is one of the themes of the show. And it's very it's like one of those things that we just sort of had in the process of making it, that then spilled over. It wasn't like Machiavellian in the sense of like, if I do this, then everyone else will do this. Or if we are interviewing writers and we ask them about their heroes and who they look up to, and who are mentors of theirs, then we'll. It more is just like, I just have always felt that if someone who their heroes are, and I don't mean like famous people they aspire to, or careers that they loved or work, but just actually people that encourage them. You can sort of learn a lot about someone. Same thing with like them playing, like Monopoly. You could probably learn a lot about someone doing that too. But we didn't want our interviews to be 4 hours long, so and boring as hell. So so we talked to them. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that comes from an improv background, or even SNL, where you spend all your whole Sunday going out and having an experience, and then so you show up on work on Monday and Tuesday and have something to write about that you just experienced on Sunday. I don't know.
Well, kind of while we're on that topic, I wanted to ask you something that I actually got to ask.
It's a weird thing when you.
Go, Brett. Go, Brett. Go.
Yeah, go.
No, I just, I'm. It's weird, being in that writers' room. We're in there however many hours a day, all around the table, all together. And I mean, I take it for granted, but fucking hell, we know each other well. Like, it is this weird sort of half, group therapy, family unit that tell each other everything, and people cry and hug. And it's when you think about it, it's probably looks very odd if you both heard it. But yeah, we've been, it's for these people, and we've done many months for many, many hours all together. It's a beautiful thing. It's really quite amazing. Anyway, that's what I was going to say. I've just arrived at the place. Does that now mean I moved to a different room? No spoilers. Let's see what happens.
No, let's blow their mind.
To be fair, you got almost 20 minutes. So if you want to jump into to the locker room, Richmond AFC, might as well do it. We'll see you from there in a second, yeah?
He's already ahead of you.
I got it.
Okay.
Well,
All right, here we go.
I have to say this much.
Here we go. That's Brett. Hey, Brett, say hi.
There we
Brett.
go.
Okay, that's Brett. Yeah. That's Brett.
It's like an episode of Cops.
Oh, it's very dark in here. It's very dark.
I love it. This is great.
You guys can't see what we see, but this crowd here is just so great to be here to join us for this wild ride. Guys, let's give a South by hello to everybody over in the UK.
This is like that video that Zelensky just did a bit ago, where he proved that he was still in the Ukraine. Remember that? He was shooting on his phone, and then he went into his version of the Oval Office. This is intense.
I will say,
Unscripted hug.
I was here for the South by year where Julian Assange literally zoomed in from the Ecuadorian consul. And when, Edward Snowden zoomed in and was a robot zooming around. So not the weirdest thing that has happened at South by, not at all. Look at that.
That's who I got. I'm on the same Wi-Fi they use. They shared their password with me.
Look at that. Nice poses, guys. Love it. All right. They made it! Woo! So, well, just to wrap...
Yeah.
Just to wrap up that thought. Oh, fuck. Do it. Brett, go.
I know, I was making a joke. You were saying just to wrap up just as we got here. Sorry.
Wrapping up the thought, though, I have to thank you probably on behalf of a hell of a lot of folks in this audience and anybody who is going to watch this later. Like Mel said, if people are reaching out to the post-production people, which in part, thank you for being a part of this panel, because unsung heroes left, right, and sideways every time. They get cut out of the award stuff. We don't get to honor you nearly enough. It is a huge, huge effort that goes into editorial, being Tom, yeah. Your colorists, your re-recording mixers, your sound design, your composer, all of it. I could floss my teeth with this show. I think I've watched every episode like 42 times. Okay, that's a very specific number. I've watched it 42 times. That's what every single detail here. So thank you for supporting the people below the line, the crafts. I know you guys know and love them and honor and appreciate them, and showing up for them like this is a big deal. But wrapping up this thought, I think there are a lot of people in this audience. We take the mail on people saying, how this show has impacted their life. The very words, I'd like to make an appointment. Gave so many people so much permission. Just honoring that relationships are hard, male dynamics amongst themselves are hard. So going into season 3 and how much is yet out there, the threads that are still kind of in the wind. You've got 2 teams that we're going to focus on. You've got Nate's new team. You've still got Richmond on the comeback here. How are you guys kind of preparing for that? You've got 3 hats, right? Producers, writers, stars. That's a lot to juggle. And poor Kip over here, man. You gotta help on all fronts. How do you guys prep for this? I mean, other than writing the script. Sorry, triple threat. Well, I mean, I know that you guys just got back together and you're still cranking out scripts, but there's going to be a lot coming together in this. How do you flip between the focuses, I guess, is probably the first thing. Which hat goes on first? I would imagine maybe, does actor hat go on last? How do you guys flip between those 3 major components of any episode?
I think you have to be whichever one is going to keep a bunch of people from slowing down. You have to whichever you have to, wherever the heat is in that moment. So yeah, when you're walking on set, like we shot a scene earlier today where I had to give like a little speech, and so there it's just about okay, just memorize these words so you don't have to do a bunch of takes and you don't ruin other people's takes when the camera's off me. That would be, and then looking ahead for tomorrow's work and know that I'm already ahead on that day's rewrites, so I don't have to. And then I think the 3 of us are wearing our cultural icons hat right now. Is that what this is? We're just in the zeitgeist. This is us serving that piece. But yeah, I think it rotates based in the moment. I don't know. That would be my answer.
Yeah, I mean, certainly writer hat first because we're getting, we were writing the script so much. I mean, writer hat and producer hat are kind of the same hat, but it's a reversible hat. And if you light it differently, it looks different. I mean, what doesn't really in the long run? But even on set, there's a lot of vacillating back and forth between the 2. Even try to do it less when we're in a given scene, but it's just kind of impossible to turn because you're just trying to sense everything. It's impossible to turn that off completely, which is why I have not won any awards for my acting. If I could just learn to focus, then maybe. But these guys, These guys, I don't know how they do it. Don't know how.
So how do you do it, Brett?
In Beard After Hours, Beard all night, Beard at dark, Beard in the dark. In the Beard in the dark episode,
We had a few titles.
Brendan, I'd forgotten this, but very kind of, we had a thing where, and it was kind of brave on your part, which was for the first time, it was like, the first draft of this we're going to do without you. Like, it's a gift, it's a surprise. He didn't know what it was going to be. And he was very like, I'm in your hands, which is very fucking brave. I've forgotten this thing. And for Beard all day in the nighttime, he was, if I may, like less. This is why you'll win the award for Beard after dawn, because he was like, I'm here as an actor, I'm here as Beard for this. But then occasionally, so there wasn't much sort of, I've had a couple of thoughts on this, like it would be on a normal episode. He was like in our hands, as it were. But there was occasionally where he'd go, you know, I could do a really good Irish accent. And we'd be like, okay, that's a good note. That is useful. And you know, so in that episode, you were much more there.
Well, I mean, y'all kept that script away from me for a very long time.
Till the day.
A very long time.
It was like a sort of, you didn't know that nightclub was going to be there. We just opened the door, kept the cameras going. Let's go, see his reaction.
The big reveal.
Big brave boy. So go on.
To be fair, those were entirely new sets and so much newness. Like, we did a companion series to season 2, and almost everyone said, yeah, 209 nearly killed me. So, like, Kip, how did you manage that many? I mean, obviously you have a team that you trust, a lot of incredible people building all of these things, putting it all together, but how do you manage something like that so removed, even with the Christmas episode, just something so different from what laughably I would say is predictability with like the sets and things like that?
It's a lot of looking around at everybody that's really talented and going, do a great job. No, we've got a really amazing team across the board. I mean, these guys do it when they write it and when they perform it, and our editors, you know, cut it together, and we get all kinds of things. I mean, I think they shot most of Beard After Hours out on location, and then we had to make those locations into real places. They were doing night shoots. They were up all night. They were working against the clock the whole time, and you guys saw it. It's a super fun, wild ride that we never knew anything about Beard like that before. So I really enjoyed the whole sort of surprise of it, because it was out of our norm to do something like that.
So the joke about cultural zeitgeist hats, how is this who knows, season 3, season 43, we got jokes here, but when this puppy does end, how are you guys, what do you hope this show is known for in 15 years? I mean, and that's, I'm not trying to future cast here, but Jason, you and I have talked about, like, you can pick out any 10 episodes of Scrubs and they could sit in the, TV Academy. And Cheers, like, I mean, guys, come on. Episode 201 last season when Ted walks in and everyone goes, Ted, would you like a drink? I mean, there's so many lovely references and ways in which this show will forever live in our hearts, but also really probably UCLA will break this down and teach a class on it. But how do you guys hope this ends up fitting into what will be TV history?
I mean, my only hope for 15 years from now is that we all look back and we say, that's the show that launched Elodie Bromfield, who plays Roy's niece Phoebe, and is easily everyone's favorite thing about this show, and she will be James Bond someday.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys something? This is one of the things I thought was interesting about season 2 was at the beginning, we started in such a different place from season 1, right? At season 1, there was the Ted versus Rebecca sort of situation, and there was all of this tension. And in season 2, we start with a big old happy family. And I remember there was some sort of discussion about that out, people watching the show. And it really kind of culminated in the Rainbow episode when, Brett, Roy drops his gig and goes back to coach. And I remember, and I thought it was something, Brett, I don't know if it was something you said in conjunction with something Jason said, but it was about the idea that, people were saying the show was just all happy. Everybody loved each other. Where's our conflict? And the reality was the conflict was there. I mean, one of our main characters had a massive meltdown on national television to walk off a set, but it went to this place that Jason talked about where it's a little bit of our characters. You guys wrote these characters and performed them to kind of handle these conflicts with the best versions of themselves, which I thought was really cool. And the idea of talking about the sort of implication of the show or the tone of the show where what sticks with people, that sort of stuck with me as sort of a unique way to deal with the conflict, I guess. The question being was that the intention when you started writing it? Was that how it manifested? And is that sort of where you look taking it forward?
I mean, at the beginning of season 2, again, season 1 hadn't come out yet. It didn't show up on Apple TV Plus until August. And we put together the writer's room in maybe May or June of 2020. And so we were just telling the story that we were, telling. And I could maybe say that the machinations of how we released the first season, that being 3 episodes and then one at a time, probably was what we were to anticipate. But we wrote towards having some level of, for lack of a better way of putting it, cliffhanger at the end, finding out where's Jamie Tart? Oh, finding out he's on this show, then finding out, Jamie's going to join the team at the end of 202. And then 203, there's a little bit of a resolve. And then we added, the Christmas episode. And that's when people, I think, at least on online, sort of were oh, there was no conflict. And it's well, yeah, it's a Christmas episode. But it's is Santa real? That's not enough conflict? I don't know in this day and age. But it was intentional to let it sort of fester the same way you would, if you're looking at 10 episodes, or in this instance, 12 episodes as a first act, second act, third act, then, your first act, you're kind of all right, yeah, Dorothy, she's bored on this farm, what the hell? And it's not until she opens up that door and then, boom, it's Beard's Dance Club, AKA Oz. And then maybe that's when the conflict started. And I think the conflict for me for the season starts at the end of episode 5, when you sort of have that great sound cue, with those crazy strings, when you see in Nate's eyes, oh, Roy's back. What does this mean for me? And that clues you in, or was there to clue you in to the call is coming from inside the house.
We had that. Remember, we had that joke, Jason, when we were on that when people were going online. Oh, it's just all warm and cozy. And there's no conflict, and when we were aware that oh yeah, from episode 6 onwards, it's a fucking massacre. It's nice that everyone's just going oh, nothing happens and everything's nice, and then the second half of season 2 is heavy shit.
Fucking dark.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. It's all relative, but I think towards Skip's point is we do kind of meet those conflicts, head on, and kind of deal with them in a way that we probably don't often enough do in real life. So, there's your wish fulfillment, maybe. It's oh, that's another way to go about doing it. But,
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. It's hard to talk about the third season when you're, only 2 weeks into it. So,
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we're going to keep it interesting, right? We're not going to let it get too boring. We'd like to keep it by the seat of our pants a little bit.
I'll say, speaking of when Brendan said I don't have an acting award yet, I feel like that is like, this show has been the biggest gift. These guys, every day I open a bin and I'm excited, whoever's in the scene, because they're gonna kill it. I've never worked with like so many amazing actors who, down to somebody that's just there for that day, that's just a part of that scene. Like everybody brings something a little bit special. Like I read the script before I watch all the dailies, so I gotta get my mind around what the intent was. And then there's always some extra magic, something extra special that they've brought. And I mentioned that last season when working with Jason, I was like, the couple in 205 that comes in and delivers the monologue to the camera, I was like, God, because I remember being worried. I'm like, they have to nail it in a oneer. Like, and he's like, oh yeah, I make that happen, And he's like, you just give people the lift to succeed, and they do that across the board, and it's like lightning in a bottle, this cast. And I remember the Emmys came out right after 205, and I was like, or like people were voting right when 205 came out, and I was like, yeah, I mean, Brett is a superstar in that one. And then I just felt like if 209 was like dropped right when people were voting, that might, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like when stuff was happening, because everybody shines. And then Nate, and at the end I was like, and then if Nate episode was airing, like people would just be, so it's like everybody's just amazing, and it's just
so you're saying
special.
Brett got lucky.
In so many words.
I was just adding that together.
Yeah.
I will say that it's worth giving a shout out to Theo Park, who's our casting director here in the UK, who puts all those people in front of us and really sort of, sniffed out the tone of the show. And then, especially when we're casting things while the writing stuff's going on, everybody weighs in. It's always good to hear everybody's opinions. Because often, a lot of times, writing is just putting your fingers on keys and structuring things, but also it's a lot about offering up your opinion, what you think is funny, what you think is sad, what you think is cool, what you think is lame, equally as important, and having people weigh in on auditions and watching auditions. And yeah, Theo just, doesn't, just whittles them down, has a great eye for what we're trying to do, and has been, tremendous. And Theo is a female. Don't think Huxtable. She is a gal through and through. And is that all right to mention the Huxtable still? If it's not.
Theo's fine.
I think the Huxtable's
okay.
good.
All right, good. All right.
All right, guys, we are going to let you get some rest. I know it's much later there than it is here. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you for the chaos. Much appreciated. That was fun. Guys, good luck on season 3. Thank you for all you do.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very